Coming to you from 4,200 feet in the hills of Oregon, it is the voice of Chytown, the reddest beard in the high desert, your host of the MOA Broadcast, Sam Wilson. All right, folks, we have got a great show lined up for you today. You may have noticed been away for a couple of weeks, just had too much going on. We missed a couple of episodes, but we are back in full swing now. Back on track and got a fantastic program lined out for you today. Just a couple of the show highlights. The Colbert Show, Stephen Colbert, is out. He's done, folks. The New York City subway slasher gets slashed back. CEO exposed by the Kiss Cam. I'm sure if you have any kind of social media at all, you are aware of this incident now. It is one of the biggest viral events on the internet that I have ever seen. It is crazy. We'll get into that later, though. Another machete-wielding maniac and a pepper spray attack by a man, that's right, folks, in his tighty whities. An underwear-wearing man went on a pepper spray rampage, and we have all the latest events and details for you here on the Make It Out Alive broadcast. So get ready. Let's see, as I mentioned, we missed a couple episodes. We were super busy. Been swamped over here in the knife shop and the gearconvoy.com website. All kind of stuff going on. So this may be of interest to some of you. If you like sci-fi and post-apocalyptic style books and such, I just finished. This is one of the things that's had me held back and tied up for a while. Just had my book published. It is now available on Amazon. It's more of a novella. It's about 155 pages. If things go well, I didn't really write it. It's called Combat Cat, The Rise of the Felix Unit. That's Combat Cat, combat with a K and cat with a K. If you want to find it, all you got to do is go to Amazon.com and type in Combat Cat. That's KOMBAT. KAT, and you will find it. It'll come up in the search really easily. You can get the ebook version, or you can buy the paperback version, and they'll both be delivered very quickly. The ebook will be instantaneously if you have Kindle or some other electronic method of downloading that. And if you get the paperback, they typically ship out in like a day or two, so it's very quick, actually. But just got that done, all the editing and the writing and all that and everything. That was quite a bit of work. It was just a little thing I had done on the side. Started doing it one day when I had some time. Working here in the shop, I had this idea kicking around in my head, and I thought, just for kicks, I might as well put this on paper, and that way there's at least something to come of it. So did that, completed it. If things go well, and again, I didn't really do it for the money. I don't expect a first-time author who has no idea what he's doing writing fiction to do well at all, but it was just something to do. But I've got this arc in my head of doing it be at least 2 to 4 books in the series of the Combat Cats. It's a pretty cool little concept. I like it. They're these human-cat hybrids that are basically super soldiers. It's kind of a lot of fun. It's not what I would consider high adult reading. It's more of like young adult into like a PG-13 action movie for most adults. We don't get super deep, or I don't get super deep. I wrote it into a whole bunch of different emotional stuff like that just yet. But we keep the action moving. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, you may like it. If not, that's fine too. If you have Amazon. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can download it for free and read it. For any other details, just go to www.gearconvoy.com and you can find all the information there on the home page. There's a thing of the Combat Cat book, an image, and everything else. And you can just click on the drop-down menu for books and the MOA broadcast and find it there. Any questions you have, feedback, suggestions on the book or on the show, feel free to hit us up at info@gearconvoy.com. As mentioned before, we send out every week. We're way behind on emails, but we have been sending out our mini survival kits that we send out each week to the best suggestion, feedback, or whatever that we get via email at info@gearconvoy.com. Okay, so let's get right into the show. Let me have a sip here for my voice. That is delicious. All right. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert has been canceled. This article comes to us from USA. today. Now, folks, before I get into this, we're going to keep it pretty brief. There's not a whole lot. The headline is pretty self-explanatory. I don't want to revel in someone else's misfortune or take pleasure in something bad happening to someone. But in my opinion, my personal opinion, and that's what we do here at the MOA, the Make It Out Alive broadcast. We try and do what the news used to do, which is give you the straight information and data. You make your own decision and determination and interpretation of that data. However, when we do inject our opinions, or my opinion, into the situation, I try and let you know this is my opinion. On this particular subject, this is my opinion. This show stinks, like most of these late night shows, in fact, like most of the news media, and I don't care which way you lean politically. I don't inject my politics or personal thoughts or religion or whatever else into this show. I am just tired of having any particular political agenda or ethos shoved down my throat to the point of some of these shows, they're so bad. All they do is attack one group, one party, one person to the point of being downright hateful. I wouldn't even mind it occasionally, but when the whole show is just a theme of attacking political ideologies and political parties and thoughts and so forth and people, I'm tired of it. I don't want to hear your politics anymore. I am done with it. That's why I strive so hard to bring the news to people. You may get my opinion in some way or another subconsciously on some of these things, but the bottom line is I respect people enough, usually, to give them the news, let them do what they want with it, and I expect the same. And I am tired of these, especially these network TV shows. They are so lopsided. Johnny Carson was very famously interviewed once, and I won't go through the whole thing, but the bottom line, the long and the short of it, is they asked him, Johnny Carson at his peak wielded immense power. He had a huge viewership and brought in tons, literally, of money for the networks. His show was very influential, and people liked and respected Johnny on both sides of the political spectrum. And they would tune in to hear his thoughts and his jokes and his monologue and his guests and his interviews and so forth because they enjoyed it. And he never got lopsided and went after one party or another real hard. He would, of course, make jokes and crack on either side, either political party, but you never came away from the thing sitting there thinking, man, Johnny really hates this group, or he really likes or supports this group. Even if he did, that's not what you got out of the show. And he was asked in an interview once, I think it was 60 Minutes or Mike Wallace or somebody, I don't remember. But they're like, why don't you, take a side or give us your thoughts? And he basically said, words to the effect of, that's not my job. I'm an entertainer. I'm here to make you laugh and to entertain you. I'm not here to tell you what to think. And he also, I don't remember if he said it or not, but he knew that if you do that, you are immediately alienating a large portion of your audience, whether it's 50-50 or not, half of the audience or not, doesn't matter. When you start ramming one political ideology or religious or social, whatever it is, one agenda down people's throats, you are automatically alienating people. And I am tired of it. I don't even watch regular TV. Most of the stuff I watch, and we'll talk, I try and include a movie. I've been doing that a couple of weeks now. I got good feedback on that. I try to include an older movie or film that I enjoyed from the 50s, 60s, 70s, or even 80s, and talk about it briefly in the show, because the quality in general was so much, it was exponentially higher than the stuff we see on TV and in the movies now. Everything looks so fake and overly polished and just too prepared. And that's one of the things that made Johnny look so good when you watch him interview. When you watch a lot of these guys now, and I haven't watched, I'll be honest, I haven't seen anything other than clips on social media in years. I haven't tuned into any of these late night programs. They look like they're literally a puppet being told what to say, and they are vehemently, anyway, we've got it. I'm tired of it though. And so anyway, that's my thing with the Colbert Show. I won't miss it. The story is this: the host of CBS Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And again, I'm not celebrating the downturn in fortune for this gentleman. I don't think Colbert has been funny in a long time. At one time, I greatly enjoyed some of his stuff, but I have not found him funny in a long time, and I'm just tired of the politics. That being said, they announced on July 17 that he only has 1 year left of monologues from New York's Ed Sullivan Theater. And it's not just him who's leaving. This is all just going away, the comedian 61 told his appalled audience, explaining that he's not being replaced, but the show will air its final episode in May 26th. So basically, they're just tanking the whole thing. I'll get into it here in a second, but let's see. Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending the Late Show. They're not going to change hosts like they did in the past, of which there have been numerous fiascos when they tried that. They're just going to go ahead and tank it. I'm sure they're going to try and shoehorn something in there in its place because they've got that, certain amount of viewership or whatever. But who knows? Whatever. The interesting thing was there has been a lot of hubbub, of course, on the internet. This has been a politically motivated decision. Maybe it was. I don't know. I don't care. I don't care. I'm done with it. But according to multiple sources, the show was deeply unprofitable, losing much more than it made each year. I read a couple different articles. I don't know that anyone has all the data and all the numbers. Who knows? But apparently they were paying him, or the show was costing between 14 and 16 or 18 million dollars a year, and it was losing or costing. They were paying him that much, and it was only bringing in, what was it? Whatever it was lopsided. They were losing like $40 million a year, according to some of the estimates I saw. I don't know if that's accurate. Again, don't care. Don't quote me on that. That's what I saw. I didn't include it because none of the articles looked like they were really rock solid. But Colbert Show is out. They will air their final episode in May 2026. I'll just say good luck, sir, and especially to all the people on the show that have, they're going to have to get different jobs or do whatever at some point soon. So fortunately, they have a year or so to figure that out. Now, we go back to New York City. Folks, even while I was gone, New York kept up its mayhem and wanton violence. Knife-wielding man killed after New York City subway station slashing victim grabbed blade, according to the New York Post. July 19, 2025. This just happened. What is today? Yeah, today's the 20th. This just happened yesterday or the night before, going into the early morning. A knife-wielding man was killed with his own weapon when the person he slashed chased him down and grabbed his blade in a Chelsea subway station Saturday, according to cops. An unidentified 24-year-old man and his friend had a verbal dispute with a third man. So these two guys, a 24-year-old dude and his buddy, were sitting here. They got into some sort of verbal altercation with this third man. I don't think they ever give his age. At the 14th Street subway station just after 7 p.m. The armed man, so the third guy, pulled out a knife and he slashed this 24-year-old man in the lower torso and then took off through the mezzanine level, according to cops. The two men chased down the slasher, quickly caught up to him, took his knife away from him, and then one of them stabbed him in the chest, according to sources. Both the alleged initial assailant and the 24-year-old were taken to Bellevue Hospital. The initial slasher, the attacker, was pronounced dead, and the 24-year-old was in a stable condition, cops said. So, the subway has always been a dicey place. I haven't been in New York in a number of years, but there was a time when I lived there and rode the subway many, many times, and often I've always been a night owl. And, this only took place at just after 7 p.m., I believe. So that's not really late at all. So it would have still been daylight, obviously not underground, but we're not talking about late at night. According to the news article, the report there. But man, New York is just crazy. Have you seen videos of what the subway looks like recently? I have seen, when I do research for these shows, I go through all kinds of videos, news sources, webpages. And let me tell you something else. These news websites are getting horrendous. It is in the last couple of months, it has taken me an extra 25%, a rough estimate of time to produce these and put these news articles and stuff together and download the information and compile them because of how many stinking ad pop-ups are on these websites. Some of them, I'll have only one or two tabs opened, and I'll open, I won't even give it a name, but I'll open, XYZ website, news website, not some weird obscure one that's trying to steal my data probably, but a mainstream news website. And it will take sometimes 10 to 30 seconds to load because all these videos and flashing things and pop-ups are loading. And it is just eating up memory or whatever. I don't know, a computer guy. I'm an analog boy in a digital world here. But whatever it's doing, it takes forever. If anybody has a suggestion for a good pop-up blocker or a good browser, I want to stick with Chrome. I use Chrome. I'm not an Apple person. I used to be into Apple and Macintosh, but I got away from I got tired of all the control, whatever. I don't have that debate. If anybody has a good suggestion on a browser or a pop-up blocker or something that can tame these insane pop-ups and ads, I would greatly appreciate it. Send me an email, info@gearconvoy.com. If you have any info, I would greatly appreciate it. Anyways, New York's always been kind of dicey, but this is where situational awareness has to come into play. And the other thing I was going to say is, be careful. There are so many people. When I used to ride the subway, and I'm sure it's worse now based on the videos that I've seen. I just saw one the other day. Something burst, a pipe or whatever, and the subway was flooding. And the train was stuck in the station, and the water was rising up above the doors in New York City. It was insane looking. I mean, that would scare me to death because you don't got anywhere to go. The conductor, he came over the PA system. We're not going to be able to move the train because the doors can't be secured. And, where are you going to go with all this water? And you're sitting on electric rails. I don't know how all that works. I'm sure they thought of that. Hopefully, I don't know. But with that third rail and a bunch of water and being in this car, it's what a mess. So anyway, situational awareness, though, is the key. I was approached numerous times, especially when, how do I put this politically correctly? I may have looked out of place depending on where I was in the city and time of day, and numerous times had attempted muggings and other things. It usually isn't that hard to stay ahead of it if you're, number one, if you don't look like a victim, and number two, if you're situationally aware. Now, I have no idea what transpired between these three fellows before the guy took out his knife and started hacking and slashing. But in general, my advice would be if somebody wants to talk or walks up to you and you can tell it doesn't feel right, don't argue. Just walk away, or better yet, run, scream, get on the train, or stay near a group of people. Numerous times I was approached with something as simple as, hey, buddy, you got the time? And you could feel just like that, this does not feel right. Either create distance, get away, whatever. But the last thing you want to do is engage people in conversation because it led to both of those guys getting slashed, and the original aggressor is now dead. Hopefully, the younger guy, the 24-year-old dude that looks like killing the bad guy, allegedly, doesn't get an infection or God knows what else from where that blade has been. So yeah, just like that article, that incident we talked about a couple of episodes ago, where there was that young couple. They were like in their 20s, I think their 20s, young, and they had just gotten married. They were still on their honeymoon, and they were driving around, whatever on their honeymoon, and they got into some minor. I didn't get the whole story very clearly, but in multiple news articles, it sounded like it was a minor road rage incident. And the guy who just got married, he gets out of his vehicle with his pistol in hand, and he goes over to the pickup truck that they had exchanged words with. I don't even think they traded paint, like they bumped into each other in their vehicles. I think it was just words or aggressive driving. And the guy in the truck saw him coming with a gun, and boom, pop, pop, he killed him, shot him dead. Now imagine you just got married, you got your whole life ahead of you, boom, you're gone. Now his poor wife is sitting in that vehicle, watch the whole thing happen. Her life is destroyed. Like, what is she going to do for the next couple of, what a mess. Probably has got done moving all of her stuff, changing her name, possibly all this, who knows what else, to bring her life into line with her husband's. And now it's all gone. So all over what? Over what? Probably it was probably something so stupid it was too embarrassing to even print. So anyway, that's my tip of the day, especially when it comes to this kind of stuff, whether it's road rage and interaction. I saw two people get into it in a store a couple of weeks ago over something so stupid, like cutting in line or something. I mean, nobody wants to get walked on and everything else, but you got to decide how far are you willing to push it over something as simple as getting, somebody getting ahead, cutting in line ahead of you, butting ahead of you in line. Are you willing to die for it? Are you willing to go to jail for it, or get stabbed, punched, cut, shot, get an infection, lose an arm or something from some weird, HIV or God knows what? I'm not. Let it go. That's what I try and do. I'm not perfect either, but goodness, let it go. Okay, let's see here. We are still in New York City. Don't worry, folks. I promise. We've got some good information coming up. It's not all going to be negative. We'll try and keep this one kind of short because it just gets crazy. I'll just read the headline and we'll jump right. This one comes to us from the New York Post as well. This is their headline, not mine. Quote, monster illegal immigrant accused of decapitating woman nabbed by ICE after judge set him free 3 months ago. This is absolutely horrible. But the headline, you got to admit, is eye-catching. An illegal immigrant accused of decapitating a missing woman and stashing her body in a bleach-filled container was arrested by ICE 3 months after... Oh, I'm sorry, this was not in New York. My apologies. This took place in Illinois. It was just the New York Post that carried the story. After an Illinois judge let him walk on the gruesome charges, officials said. So instead of reading this whole thing, let me tell you what happened. Mexican national Jose Luis Mendoza Gonzalez, 52, was arrested by ICE on Saturday afternoon at a Chicago market after being charged with concealing and abusing the corpse of Megan Boz in April. So it doesn't exactly say that I could find in this article what happened here, but somehow this guy Mendoza Gonzalez was first arrested in April when police discovered the 37-year-old victim's headless body stuffed in a bleach-soaked storage bin in the yard of his Waukegan home. He told the police, allegedly, that the woman who was reported missing in March after she vanished in February had overdosed at his home, but instead of calling authorities, he broke her phone, hid her body in the basement for 2 days, and later moved it outside. No mention of when he removed the head, if he did so, allegedly. She was found 1 month later. Police did not believe his story, though, saying that the body had been rotting in his yard for nearly 2 months before it was found. So the problem is this. Mendoza Gonzalez was locked up. He was arrested. He was released. He was arrested on charges of, I don't know, the murder of this woman, the dismemberment of her corpse, whatever. These are serious charges. This wasn't shoplifting. This wasn't even like grand theft auto or firing off a gun in a crowd. This is murder and decapitation, mutilation of a corpse, and goodness knows what else. He was released about 48 hours later under the state's controversial Safety Act, which abolished cash bail and allows judges to determine jail time no matter how severe the crime is, according to Antioch, Illinois Mayor Scott Gardner. Just a quick note, this is the controversial Safety Act. It's spelled SAF-T Act. Anytime the government wants to do something that you don't like and you don't agree with them and they want to force you to do it, they're going to do it in the name of public safety or safety. It's what they almost always do it. And that's how they try and disguise frequently their most disgusting and heinous programs. This was called the Safety Act, literally. So this guy got arrested for potentially manslaughter, murder, mutilation of a corpse. It doesn't exactly say very clearly in his article. Less than 48 hours later, according to Mayor Scott Gardner, he said, I was shocked to find out literally the next day that the person they had arrested had been released from prison under the Safety Act and had been detained less, I think, than 48 hours. Quote, Mendoza Gonzalez is now in ICE custody, and I doubt he's going to be sticking around for very long. I don't know. That's going to be a mess. This poor lady. What a horrible story. Man. Okay, one more, and then we're going to have to take the break, and we've got all kinds of good stuff. I'm probably going to have to trim a story along the way. A machete-wielding man shot by a Los Angeles PD officer near Crypto.com arena in downtown. We go to L.A. A driver waving a machete near the Crypto arena was shot and injured by an LAPD officer. Shortly after 9 p.m., officers responded to Figueroa Street and Olympic Boulevard after reports of an assault with a deadly weapon. LAPD said the man was reportedly flashing the machete at people and chanting some sort of strange chant. When the police arrived, they say the man, armed with a machete, charged at them, waving the machete. He then jumped into a black Dodge Challenger, and there was a short pursuit. As the man began driving in circles around officers and nailing one of the patrol cars, he then stopped and exited his car and charged them again with the machete. That's when the LAPD says 2 officers fired their weapons and critically injured him. He was still armed and was struck by gunfire, transported to a local hospital where he is in critical condition and receiving medical care. Man, what is going on with people out there? That is enough to make you not. I mean, I don't live anywhere near basically any kind of city. If you've listened to the show for the last several months, I've encountered plenty of bizarre situations and scenarios on my own. But man, it makes you just want to get away from these cities. It's not even a political Republican, Democrat, this, that, or the other, red or blue state. People are going insane and they are taking it out very, very violently on citizens and police. Man. Okay. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this. I don't like gossip and that sort of thing. But this story has exploded in the last couple of days. I'm going to read the headline and then we'll jump right in. This is the latest update. It took place on Saturday night. It is now Sunday morning at the time this episode is being recorded. Andy Byron resigns from AI company Astronomer after being caught canoodling, their word, not mine, with head of HR Kristen Cabot at Coldplay concert, according to the New York Post. He got the big kiss off is the headline. So if you have social media of any kind, I am sure you have seen this story, but I have never seen anything that I can recall go as viral, as hard, and as heavy as this story has in the last 2 or 3 days. So briefly, on Wednesday night, there was a Coldplay concert. I don't even really know. I couldn't name you a single Coldplay song. I'm sure I've heard them. I don't listen to much modern music or recent music. Anyways, whatever. They were at a Coldplay concert. Sounds kind of weird to me. Not in an off way, just whatever, not my thing. This guy, Andy Byron, who was the CEO of this company called an AI and tech company called Astronomer, he was at this Coldplay concert apparently with his head of HR, what they call their top people person or something like that. And all of a sudden, what they call the kiss cam. If you've seen it, it's like the camera goes around and puts your picture up on the jumbotron. So it's going around to the audience, and it sees this couple in this nice warm embrace. He's standing behind the woman, has his arms wrapped around her upper torso in a what I would consider a romantic embrace. I mean, his hand looked like they were directly over her upper chest, and I'll leave it at that. And she seemed to be enjoying it. They're both facing out towards the crowd. And the lead singer, whatever hhis name is, or the band, I don't know what he is, some band dude, he sees this and he goes, oh, like a tender moment. And immediately, when this guy and the gal, when they see their faces up on the jumbotron or kiss cam, whatever it's called, she spins around and covers her face like this, and he literally drops to the floor like a 12-year-old. I mean, immediately something is wrong. And the band guy, the lead singer guy, he even says, wow, either those two are having an affair or they are extremely camera shy. And it exploded from there. That happened on Wednesday night. I was working late Wednesday night and into early morning here in the shop. And I remember on my coffee break at 3, 4 in the morning, checking my phone and social media. It was everywhere. They had already identified the guy who it was his HR chief. Now, here's the kicker. Both of them, I believe, definitely the guy, the male, is married to another woman and has kids. That was not his wife, that he was, quote unquote, canoodling at this Coldplay concert. So this whole thing went bonkers over the internet. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It doesn't matter. I don't like gossip. To me, it was more of it was insane how quickly, by Friday, by Friday, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of memes and people reenacting this on the internet. By Friday afternoon, I saw t-shirts making fun of this event. I have never seen an event that I can recall go as super viral as this did almost overnight. It was absolutely crazy. Anyway, he's out. He resigned. They said Andy Byron tendered his resignation, and the board of directors has accepted. They had some PR statement, yada, yada, yada. Byron, 50, and Kristen Cabot, 52, sparked a near unprecedented viral storm when they were seen desperately dodging the kiss cam while cuddling at the concert near Boston Wednesday night. I believe it was at Gillette Stadium. So, yeah, during the deer in the headlight moment, Cabot quickly covered her face, and Byron swiftly ducked out of view. Yeah, it was the lead singer. He said either they're having an affair or they're very shy. By Thursday morning, they were identified as the high-powered CEO and HR boss of a tech company. Within 24 hours of that or so, boom, he had tendered his resignation, and the board of directors has accepted. The whole thing, like I said, if you have social media, you cannot get away from this. It is all over the place. I've never seen it like this. What a wild viral moment. Byron, estimated to be worth between $50 and $70 million for now, was paid between $469,000 and $690,000 a year, but received handsome performance-based bonuses. Cabot, that's the HR lady, her future with the AI-driven data company remains unclear. All right, folks, we'll be back with more after the break. More Make It Out Alive with Sam Wilson after this.
This is Dave. Dave makes the tastiest burritos in town. But
nobody knows I exist. I'm serving culinary masterpieces to my mom and a raccoon named Dennis.
Then came Jenny.
Dave, have you tried radio?
Radio, isn't that for traffic reports and late-night alien talk?
It's also for thousands of people who don't know you exist.
Huh?
Yet, radio is affordable, reliable, and it works. Not instant burrito fame, but people start showing up kind of results.
So I partnered with Gold Country Radio, and now people know I exist. I've got new customers, catering calls, and Dennis brought a possum. I think they're dating.
I told you. Radio gets your business heard.
Next up, we a second table, maybe indoor seating.
Want to get your business heard? Visit goldcountryradio.org and click Contact to get started. Radio, small budget, big reach, real results.
You're listening to the MOA Broadcast with Sam Wilson. Will you make it out alive? All right, folks, we are back from a break. This is the MOA, the Make It Out Alive Broadcast with your host, Sam Wilson. All right, and before we went to the break, just to be clear again, just so it's not misconstrued, I don't like gossip column stuff, and frankly, the story that we discussed right before the break was that couple that was allegedly, quote unquote, having an affair, whatever in the world it is they were doing with people that weren't their spouse, allegedly in public on the kiss cam at a Coldplay concert. To me, that kind of stuff happens every day, and it's none of my business. I don't wish anybody well that's doing that. But again, that's none of my affair. No pun intended. To me, the striking thing was, this is the power, if you want to use that word, this is the reality of the internet that we live in now. That whole thing, it was, many people said in the comments of multiple times, I saw different angles of the video and so forth, that if they had just kind of played it off or not reacted, because if you watch the video, when they saw themselves on the Jumbotron or whatever they call it, that's probably the trademarked version, but when they saw themselves on the big screen at that concert, you could tell immediately something was very, very wrong. That lady just, buried her face in her hands and spun around at a 180 so fast. And the guy literally, this is a guy worth tens of millions of dollars. He dropped to the floor below the view of the camera. So you knew something was wrong. But the crazy thing was the way this went so viral. It is. And if you're not familiar with that term, I can't imagine anybody not being familiar with that term in today's world. But viral refers to when like a clip or a video, a picture, a meme, whatever, just goes everywhere, all over the internet. You can't get away from it. It's the same thing. If you looked at this, it was all, I don't know about Instagram. I don't use it as much, but it was all over TikTok. It was all over X or Twitter as it's called. It was all over the regular internet. It was everywhere. So it's just crazy. I don't think I've ever seen an event go as viral as that one did in such a short period of time. Imagine before this, and again, I don't care about their personal beliefs and decisions. It's none of my business. What they did is on them. But they went to this concert for whatever reason, thought this would be a good idea on Wednesday night. Within basically 36 hours, he's out of his job, making significant, he's probably, somewhere on track to be about $750,000 to $1 million a year or more. Who knows what? That was his publicly listed income, was between $400,000 and $600,000 a year with performance-based bonuses and so forth. But that's how fast the internet acts. Like I said, there were already T-shirts, there were games. There was a Phillies game, the baseball Phillies game. They were doing a parody of that scene on the Jumbotron at their ball game on Friday night or Saturday night. It is absolutely crazy how fast. There used to be that there's an old saying that a lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth gets its pants on, or something to that effect. With the internet now, the reality can travel all the way around the world and back before anybody can realize. It's just crazy. So anyway, Want to talk about a brief film, or briefly about a film. I try and include a movies. I've mentioned a number of times that I'm not that interested. And for those of you that don't care about what I'm interested in, I don't know why you're listening to this show, but hey, I'm happy to have you. But if you're listening to this show, it's my show. I talk about what I want, and I'm not particularly interested in most of the television programs and the movies that are put out today, especially when you look in probably any movie genre, but a lot of it in like the action and adventure genre. Everything is it's so polished, it's so perfect, it doesn't look real. Take pretty much any action film today, and then compare it to like Red Dawn, which was a kind of a one of a kind film at its time. In some ways, you might even consider it a groundbreaking film back in that's probably 80, 84, 87, somewhere in there. Red Dawn with the Patrick Swayze version. There were a lot of stars. I'm going to name Patrick Swayze. He's the first one that comes to mind. But there were a lot of people who would later go on to be very big names in that film and already were big names. You could see the sweat, the blood, the dirt under the fingernails. It felt gritty. Even though it was a movie, it felt very, very real in some ways. When you watch a lot of these movies and television programs now, it looks so fake and artificial. I can't get invested in it. And I'm not interested. So that's me. That's why I much prefer a lot of the older films we talked about. I'm a big Burt Lancaster fan. Two great films from Burt Lancaster: Lawman, a great Western. I love old Westerns. Although Clint Eastwood kept the tradition alive, I got to say. And Burt Lancaster, I just love his films in general. He was a great, very, very physical actor. And Scorpio was a great film. We talked about that a couple of episodes ago. Today's film, I'm also a big Charles Bronson fan. And I think, let me get a quick sip here. This is one of the reasons that we see this disparity, the dichotomy, if you will, between a lot of these older action stars of yesteryear and today's quote-unquote action stars. A lot of these guys today, let me get a sip here, my voice. Okay, hang on. Make some adjustments on our screen here. A lot of these guys today, they're not action stars in any sense of the word. In a lot of cases, they're products produced out of Hollywood. Okay, and they got their teeth done, they got their hair been done, their skin's been done. They've had acting lessons, voice lessons, singing lessons, dance lessons, action lessons. A lot of them are pumped up on PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, steroids, whatever you want to call it, allegedly, to produce these strong physiques. But these guys, there's a term out there now that talks about these kind of guys that they may look the part, but they're weak. They're weak. They call them soy boys. They're not real boys. Remember Pinocchio? I'm a real boy now. They're soy boys. It's not real meat. It's soy meat. And that's what it looks like. Their nails are perfectly done. Their hair, skin, makeup, their clothing is always in perfect array, no matter what. If you go back and look at some of these action stars and just actors from 40, 50, 60 years ago, these guys were, and I'm going to keep this very radio friendly, but they were hardcore. They were legitimate. Look at guys like Lee Van Cleef, Clint Eastwood. Now, I'm not saying necessarily these guys were all tough guys in real life. They were still playing a movie role, but they at least were able to pass the movie role and make it work. Lee Van Cleef, Clint Eastwood, Lee Marvin, James Coburn, Yul Brynner, Charles Bronson. These were guys that when they played tough as nail roles, they were believable. And the other thing is, I won't go into all kinds of names. We don't have time today, but an interesting research project, and we'll come back to this on a later episode of the show. If you look, a lot of these guys were in the military. They served and had active combat. Clark Gable, a whole bunch of names. They not only served actively in the military and had active duty, a number of them were awarded awards and were wounded and they had seen some heavy battle. That undoubtedly impacted their ability to play these action roles in a very, very realistic way. So forget your politics on the military, this, that, and the other. The bottom line is these guys had been hurt and had probably hurt others, and it showed. So today's film, Hard Times, this is one of my absolute all-time favorite films. It is so spare. They waste nothing, not a word of dialogue, not a punch, not a step, not a stroke. Nothing is wasted in this film, and it is a tremendous fantastic action film, but it's also very, very spare. I love it to death. Let me get a quick sip and we'll get into this. So, Hard Times, 1975, main star Charles Bronson, directed by Walter Hill. This is a gritty Depression-era drama about the world of underground bare-knuckle boxing. This film, this is another one of the, to me, the dichotomies that we see, the disparities. There's a number of words we can use, contrast, whatever, between films of that era and now. Films back then didn't have near the amount of blood, gore, and just gruesome, gore, if you will, for lack of a better word, gratuitous gore. But they looked so much more realistic. These people looked tough as nails. A lot of films now have lots of gore, lots of blood, but they look weak. And I hate that. I can't stand it. There are several directors that are almost famous for this now, and I don't like watching their films because it's so over the top, gratuitously bloody and gory, but it still it doesn't look real. If you've ever seen real violence, it looks different than that. That's all I'll say. Okay, so this film starred Charles Bronson. Look up Charles Bronson history one time. He was in, I think it was World War II, I believe. He saw combat. He came from whichever war it was. I have to go back and look. It's been years since I've read this, but I believe it was from a family of Polish immigrants. I think his father worked in a coal mine, and Charles Bronson himself, I think their last name was originally Buczynski. They were dirt poor, horribly poor. And I think he worked in the coal mines or whatever mines it was for a couple of days, weeks, or months, whatever. And he's like, I'm not doing this. When I'm going through the military and then Hollywood and so forth, he kind of bloomed late in Hollywood, but whatever. This is, I did a quick, write up here off the internet. It was set in 1930s New Orleans. The film follows Cheney, which is Bronson. He's a quiet, stoic drifter with deadly fists who teams up with Speed, played by James Coburn. James Coburn, in my opinion, had one of the best all-time voices ever. I could listen to him read the newspaper. He had a great voice, great resonance, great depth, and great clarity. Anyway, he plays this he plays basically, he's one notch shy of basically a bookie. He's out there selling and making bets for Bronson's character and his other fighters. So basically it's an underground world of bare knuckle boxing. Speed, which is James Coburn, he is the guy that sets up fights. Cheney, which is Charles Bronson, he drifts in a town in New Orleans and wants to get in this. He needs to make just enough money, as he puts it, something to the effect of to just get around the next bend in the road. He's not really looking towards the future. He's just trying to get through, the next couple of weeks. In real life, he would have been around 50, 55, somewhere in there. I think in the movie, he's a little bit younger than that because he was in such phenomenal physical condition. He could pass for much younger. So it is what it is. Together, they, quote-unquote, navigate the violent world of illegal street fighting to earn money during hard economic times. While Speed struggles with debts and gambling, Cheney stays focused on winning fights, his discipline, skill, and a mysterious past. It's a minimalist, character-driven tale of survival and loyalty, known for its realistic, unglamorous fight scenes and Bronson's iconic silent toughness. It was a great film. This movie, I don't know what it's rated on its own, at the time. This would easily be a PG film today. There's very, very little profanity, very little blood, but just there's some very tough bare knuckles fight scenes. They're not gratuitous and gory, but you see both boxers in each scene just have a ton of grit, and it looks very realistic. There's a minimal amount of dialogue. Strother Martin plays a fantastic role in this. He's the doctor. He's a hophead, a heroin addict, but he's, you'll have to watch the film. It's great. Everybody is just perfect for their roles. Minimal amount of dialogue, and his wife, Jill Ireland, is in it. She plays his kind of girlfriend / brief love interest. It's a great film. I could watch this one any day of the week. It's a great dinner film. So Hard Times, 1975, Charles Bronson, watch it. Okay, we got to keep moving, but it's one of my favorites. Okay, so what do I want to talk about? Some Make It Out Alive bullet points. Each week, in addition to the news and the other stuff, other stuff we talk about, we try and get in some good, make it out alive, some situational awareness, whatever. This show is built around wilderness and urban survival. That's been a hobby and an interest of mine for decades now. And let me get a quick sip here. One of the traps that we have fallen into here, especially in America, is we just want to go buy, I've talked about this a number of times, we just want to go buy gear off of Amazon or the internet or Walmart or wherever it is you get your stuff, instead of actually prepare and practice with your stuff. And testing your gear is so important. I'm going to give you a couple of brief but yet real world examples. Okay, solar chargers. The other day, this actually wasn't the other day, it was the other day about 2 weeks ago when I prepared this. About 3-4 weeks ago, I live in the high deserts of southern Oregon. Okay, I'm about 4,200 feet. On a good southern exposure day, I get some tremendously strong sun rays at over 4,000 feet in elevation. Okay, excuse me. So I took out a couple of my small solar chargers, and these are small. When I say small, I'm talking about the size of maybe like a 5x7 or a 6x10 panel. These are small. Okay, 6 inches by 10 inches, 5x7. That's about the size of a small padded mailer, something like that. They were both dead. I ran them dead, and then I put them in southern-facing sun starting in the afternoon when the sun came over the top of the, over 12 o'clock noon, and gave them southern-facing sun. And so it's about 8 hours of direct, hardcore, 4,200 feet sunlight. Both of these solar chargers were at less than 1 bar at the end of the day. So I ran them a second day. After the second day, they barely hit 2 bars out of like 4 or 5 as far as showing their charge. What is the point? I would have thought both of those, I had charged them before in the sun, but I guess I must have charged it when they already had a lot of juice left in the cells, the battery cells or whatever. I was very disappointed at how long it took to charge those. Think about that. If you were trying to charge your phone with those cells, it would take you basically 3 days of southern-facing sun, which is going to be your most direct, powerful, longest rays, to get a full charge. So what is the point? The point is, make sure, that may not be the end of the world for you. Maybe you've got multiple cells, maybe you've got whatever. Make sure you're aware of the current state of your gear and how long it takes. Now, I usually keep those cells fully charged anyway via plugging them into the wall, but I wanted to deplete them all the way. I charged phones and other things until they were totally dead, and I wanted to see how long it would take to solar charge them. I was disappointed. If I lived in a place like Portland, where I used to live in Portland, you do not get a lot of good direct solar rays all the time. It would have possibly taken me a week to get a cell phone charge out of 1 or 2 of those solar chargers. So just keep that in mind. The point is, get out there and check your gear. Let's see, where am I at here? I had a couple of notes on this. Oh, this is a good one. So again, to continue the same point, I had a buddy one time. Long story short, it wasn't a full-on emergency, but we had to crack into his emergency gear. Okay, it wasn't a flood. What happened? I think there was a power outage or a blackout or whatever. So we cracked into his bins of emergency gear. He had stored batteries. He had lanterns. That was what it was. There were 2 lanterns, and we're going to use those to run the lights until we got everything all charged up, got generators going, and went out and got everything taken care of. Well, foolishly, he had stored his batteries in the lanterns themselves. So when we went to go turn them on, guess what? The batteries had leaked, and they had corroded and ruined the inside of those lanterns. Now 2 lanterns and all those batteries were completely useless. He would have known that had he checked his gear even once a year against that and try to turn everything on and check it up, charge it. How do you get around that? I can tell you what I do. Again, I'm not perfect. I certainly make my fair share of mistakes too. When it comes to batteries, every family, in my opinion, should have at least one of those big plastic bins, like from Lowe's or whatever, 20, 30, 40, 50 gallon, whatever size. You can, vary that based on your family size and needs. Full of your emergency gear. I have multiple lanterns and flashlights and so forth. And the batteries for those, I take them out and I vacuum seal them in a plastic bag. So the batteries are stored separately so that even if there was a flood and they got totally submerged, those batteries are good and they're not contacting each other. So if they're a large, like one of the big 9, I don't know, what is it, the 9 the large 9 volt or the dry cell, whatever it's called. I can't think anymore. Not the small 9 volt that go in like your smoke alarm, but the big ones that are the size of like a big burrito. Those and D cell and C cell batteries, they're individually stored or even multiple in one bag, but they're not touching contacts. And I vacuum seal them. So you could toss them underwater and they would be good to go for weeks, months at a time. That's step number 1. Number 2, make sure the batteries are not stored inside of the flashlights and the lanterns and stuff themselves. Because if those batteries leak and they corrode, now everything is worthless. The batteries and the lantern. I got enough stories I could probably fill a whole other show, but let me see. What do I got down here? Let's see. That was that. Preparedness. Compasses. If you've got compasses, make sure they're calibrated. Depending on where you are in North America or around the world, you may have to adjust the declination of your compass to make sure it's accurate. If you don't know what that means, you need to do a bit of a deep dive on compasses and make sure, because north is not just north. It's not quite that simple, and I'll leave it at that. Knives. Your knives need to be sharp. Very briefly, if you don't know how to sharpen your knife, that's fine. Just so you know, I don't care if you do this or not. I sharpen a lot of knives for local businesses, for restaurants, and so forth. If you want your knife sharpened, you can contact us at www.gearconvoy.com or info@gearconvoy.com. And we sharpen knives of all kinds, serrated, straight edge, so forth, large, small. They're usually between $10 and $15 plus shipping. You can do that. Find somebody local. I don't care. I'm not trying to sell the service, but make sure your knives are sharp. On one occasion, more than one occasion, I can tell stories, but this one in particular, I was backpacking with a number of people, and this guy pulled out a knife, and, not like in a threatening manner. We were, guys are. We like to pull our stuff out and compare this, that, and the other to yours and mine. His knife was so dull, it couldn't cut open his plastic beef jerky container or package that he was trying to get his beef jerky out of. Another occasion, a guy is making fun of the fact that I make and design hollow handle survival knives that are, in my opinion, of the highest quality. This guy, he didn't know me, and I'm not saying that I'm some kind of anything special. I'm not a regular guy, but he's making fun of my hollow handle survival knife. He pulls out his knife and he starts chopping on a piece of wood to show how tough and durable it is. The blade, it was some piece of flea market junk. The blade literally broke off from the handle and flew across and landed in the dirt. And it wasn't even sharp anyway. He didn't even dent the wood. It didn't even scratch the bark on the stick. It just broke off. So the point is what? The point is, make sure you test your gear. What was the other one I had in my notes here? Oh yeah, this guy. One time I went backpacking with this group of guys, and this guy pulls out a tent. They all made fun of me because I'm from rural Missouri, okay? And this is after I moved to the Portland area. I don't usually go backpacking or hiking with other people because you never know what other people's level of experience is. I'm not trying to say I'm an expert, but I know what I know. Let me put it like that. And most people, they have no idea what they know or don't know. They're used to hanging around with people that are at the same level as them, and they avoid people that are either above or below them. So they tend to not grow, okay? Anyway, the point is this. We got out into the woods. This guy pulls out all kinds of new gear and crap, and he has this he's making fun of my hammock that I'm stringing up between two trees. He's putting together his tent that he got from, wherever it was, REI or some fancy schmancy place. Nothing against REI. But he's putting it together, and all of a sudden he realizes the tent has no tent poles. By mistake, they forgot to include the tent poles or something. I don't know what happened. Maybe he got a factory second and didn't realize it. But he's got his tent now, and he has no tent poles. So he has to climb into his tent like it's this big, gigantic Ziploc bag. He has no tent poles to hold his tent together. So guess who had the last laugh that night? Spoiler alert, it was me. That guy that made fun of the hollow handle knives was great, though. He was like, oh, that piece of, I'll keep this radio friendly, that piece of junk, cheap, flea market Rambo knife is never going to make it. And he took his knife and chopped one time into this stick, and his blade snapped off at the handle and flew, and it ting, as it flew across and landed in some pine needles. So, it is what it is. All right, let's see. We're not going to have time to cover that story. Where are we at? Ba-da-ba-da-ba. You know what? Let's go ahead. We've got a vicious murder story we're going to cut out. We'll get to that next week, covering COVID-19 protocols that led to the death of a man on the way to visit his new grandson or granddaughter. Instead, we're going to do a story. Let's go to Portland, Oregon. We'll keep this brief. I don't have a ton of time, and we're going to jump right in here. This is a good story. Positive, good. This is good news. This is what I like to see. We go to Portland, Oregon, KOIN News. Deputies rescue 75-year-old from ravine thanks to safety bracelet. A 75-year-old man considered endangered was found and rescued from the bottom of a ravine thanks to a new tracking bracelet, authorities said. Bill McCord went missing from his home on Southwest Scenic Drive in Washington County around 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday. He wandered off without his cell phone, but he was equipped with a Project Lifesaver bracelet, leading law enforcement to his location. Excuse me while I have a drink, folks. A sip. Okay. Everybody was looking. This is from the sheriff's office, Deputy Aaron Codino. Everybody was looking. Once we got a signal off his bracelet and were able to hone in on the area, the canine teams working in the area, and they found him. This is a situation that could have ended a lot worse, but it ended in the best way we could have asked for. Now, what is Project Lifesaver? I had never heard of this. Project Lifesaver is a community public safety nonprofit organization designed as a protective and, if necessary, location tool for people with cognitive disorders who may be prone to wandering off or engaging in other life-threatening behavior, the sheriff's office said. Project Lifesaver is part of the sheriff's Elders Safe program. The wrist bracelet can alert people wearing it to law enforcement, fire and rescue teams, or caregivers with their location in emergency situations. It doesn't go into great detail as how it works with this GPS-based whatever is going on there, but thank goodness this guy, his family, or him, or somebody saw fit to make sure he was equipped with one of these bracelets. And I used to live in Portland in Washington County, not too far from where this took place. There are a lot of hiking trails and wilderness type areas, even though they may be small in square mileage or acreage, inside of Portland, Oregon, and the surrounding cities. So this guy may have walked right out of his apartment complex, his home, wherever, and wandered into this and got very quickly into some relatively remote area, insofar as it's very easy to be in one of these areas. He got into a ravine, and people may not have been able to hear him screaming for help if he was even calling for help. Somehow he did, or whatever, activated this bracelet, and with the canines and drones, they found this guy very quickly. So very pleased. That's a fantastic story. I love that. We love to see a happy ending to these where the person is found successfully, and especially with the use of the new technology that we have, just amazing. He was trapped by thick foliage, unable to get himself out. The team pulled him out and took him to a hospital about 3 hours after he was reported missing. 3 hours is nothing. That's a great window. Fantastic news. Okay, we go now to Florida. You can't make this up. Man in tidy whities. This is the headline, the news article from Tamarack Talk, coming to us straight out of Florida. Their headline: Man in tidy whities pepper sprays sleeping neighbor. Sleeping neighbor over noise complaints. A man was arrested after police say he broke into his upstairs neighbor's apartment wearing only his underwear and pepper sprayed him in the face while he slept. According to Lauderhill Police Department, an affidavit on June 21, officers responded to the scene at an apartment complex. Upon arrival, officers encountered a distressed victim with irritation to his face. The victim reported he had been attacked by a neighbor identified as Andrzej Storowski, 71, of Lauderhill, a resident of the unit directly below him. The victim told officers he was taking a nap when loud banging at his front door woke him and startled him awake. While still in his bed, he opened his eyes, and Tarowski, described as wearing no clothes other than a pair of underwear, was hovering over him and sprayed him in the face with what was later confirmed to be pepper spray. Imagine you're in your house taking a nap and some guy kicks your door in his underwear. And he walks into your bedroom and pepper sprays you in his underwear. Tarowski, this is the alleged aggressor, who has a history of noise complaints, initially denied entering the apartment. However, police noted 2 canisters of pepper spray by the front door of his unit, one of which appeared to be recently used. They also reported that Tarowski was still wearing no pants or shirt when they arrived. He was dressed only in his allegedly dirty underwear. Further questioning led to Tarowski admitting he had ongoing issues with his neighbor, and he stated that if officers failed to help him stop the noise, he would hurt him real bad and possibly use a gun. Tarowski was arrested and charged with burglary with assault or battery and transferred to the Broward County Main Jail. That's Florida for you folks. All right. Don't wait to prepare until it's too late. If you wait, it may be too late if you don't make it out alive. You don't make it out at all. Stay safe out there, folks.